We have all members present, so you may begin, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Then we'll call to order this committee of the whole meeting of the Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores, and welcome all members of the committee and everyone who's watching us on the live stream this evening. We're glad that you're with us. The second item on the agenda is disclosures of pecuniary interest. I'll ask any member if you have one of those you wish to declare. Councillor Davinsky.
Yes, in our first delegation, Pat Dobek, my wife, Reverend Ann Vaver-Davinsky, is a member of the Spiritual Care Council, which is being presented tonight. And there's a bit of a money ask at the end, so I'll stay out of it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Davinsky. Any other pecuniary interests to declare? Seeing none, of course, you can do that anytime if you need to. We have no additions, deletions, or amendments. We have no open forum requests this evening. We do have two delegations, and before I call the first one, I'll just remind them both that Council has allocated 10 minutes for all of our delegations, and so certainly appreciate it if both the delegations would stick to that time frame for us. And so with that, I'll call on our first delegation, which is from Pat Dobek, and she's here to speak to us about the Spiritual Care Council of Graverus. And there's Ms. Dobek. Good evening.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak to all of you. Okay, now I'm probably going to need Tracy instantly. Okay, there we go. Tracy was very kind in helping me to at least figure part of this out. But Mayor and councillors and staff, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak to you about the Graverus Spiritual Care Council. This is an organization that, quite honestly, many people have never heard of, but it has been around for a period of time. It was established in August of 1997 and incorporated in July 2004. Its service area is the 11 hospitals of Graverus, the hospice, and the palliative care home care team. The spiritual care program is managed by Graverus Spiritual Care Council, and it has 12 volunteer council members, of which I am one. It's a nonprofit charity, and its terms of reference, which I'm very happy to see, were updated before I joined the council, because it's not my favorite pastime. There is an annual AGM meeting and a report that follows. So what is it all about? Mission statement and values. The mission is to lead in the development and provision of spiritual care services to patients, family members, and staff in the healthcare sector of Grey and Bruce counties. Whoops, sorry. Its values are meaning, comfort, and strength. Typical provide background, and I find this really interesting. First of all, many people don't know a lot about the spiritual care program. And secondly, very few, one person that I spoke to said, oh, well, they're just all little old ladies who go around and visit people in hospital, which in fact is definitely not the case. These spiritual care providers are well grounded in background. Many have reverend or pastor or other designations and have a fairly significant education, as well as they attend the CASC, Certified Spiritual Care Practitioner. Oh, just a second. I've lost part of my slide here because you guys are on here. Sorry. There we go. Anyway, just to give you some of the things that they do, this is totally not about religion. So anybody going to a hospital who needs to see a spiritual care provider can definitely access them. Although many people will, because they are religious, access them as well. In the year 2020, they made over 44,000 visits. And in 2021, up until November, they had made 4,500 visits. They have 24-hour on-call support, and each hospital has a backup to the spiritual care provider who assists when they are not available. Obviously, one person can't cover 24/7, and there are often emergencies more than one in a hospital. In Owen Sound, the community clergy support the on-call program by taking shifts each month so that when the spiritual care providers are not available, there is always someone who can be reached. Another thing that they are involved in is clinical pastoral education. And they have 5 students. It's an adult learning program with clinical spiritual care. So these pictures, John Davinsky, who is backed out of giving me any donations tonight, happens to know one of them quite well. And these are the 3 people that if you live in Saugeen Shores, you may have met. Dar Rath is a pastor here, and she services both the Southampton and the Wyerton hospitals. And if probably many of you know her from her great work that she's done with the surgical care caps that for all the healthcare professionals during COVID, so that they don't have to put the elastics around their ears, which is pretty nifty. She's also, you will often see her going into the hospital to visit, but also she has her musical instruments with her, and she's an exceptional support, not only for residents and families, but also for the staff. And the staff are having a tough time during COVID, and they're doing an exceptional job, but it's not an easy time. Anne, wife of John, is the spiritual care provider at the Owen Sound Hospital, and it's great to have her there, and she's enthusiastic and keen. And I actually was in that hospital today, and if I'd known it was Monday, which I didn't, I thought it was Sunday, I would have called on Anne. I probably needed a little spiritual care. And the last lady is Reverend Jan Temple Jones. And anybody who has had anybody in hospice at Chapman House will know of Jan, because she's there on a regular basis and giving support in a fabulous facility that we are very blessed to have in Saugeen, or in this area. Spiritual care providers are available to visit patients, family, and staff at each hospital, hospice, and with the palliative care home team. They're professional, multi-faith, and compassionate. They're part of the healthcare team, and sometimes people don't know this, but they're a neutral body, so that you don't have the doctor-nurse impact, but rather they can come in and offer an entirely different perspective to the care that's afforded in hospital. They're professional, multi-faith, and compassionate. They're part of the healthcare team. Their spiritual care program is overseen and supported by the Grey Bruce Spiritual Care Council. They offer a caring, non-anxious support during illness, crisis, emotional stress, and at the end of life. They listen. Not only do they listen, but they hear. So often we listen, but we don't always hear. And they're exceptional at this. And I've watched it for many, many years as an employee in the healthcare system. And they just are magical when they come into an area when there's any stress. They provide spiritual assessment and care. And back to the last slide. They respect and understand various religions and cultures, and Canada being such a multicultural country, this is really, really important. They provide one-to-one visits and or family support. They meditate and pray as requested. They facilitate smudging for Indigenous members. They connect patients to their faith community. If somebody does have a religious religious perspective, then they will connect them with their own care providers from their own church or mosque or whatever. They consult on ethical issues. They provide staff support, debriefing, and memorial services, all of which are really important. Living in an area where people are constantly dying is a challenge for care providers, and particularly when you're in some place like hospice care, which is absolutely a phenomenal organization. We receive our funding from faith communities, hospital foundations, hospice, the palliative care outreach team, grants, individual donations, and fundraising. But we haven't done a fundraiser for a while. So, and now we need to. The funding partners are spiritual care providers, the United Church of Canada, the Community Foundation Graverus, Psycho-Spiritual Outreach Team, and Chapman House Hospice. Of all of the monies that we use to operate this program, 94.9% go to frontline care and programming, and 5.1% go to administration. So this year, because when the first time I saw the budget, I was shocked at the salaries that these people made. So I must admit, I did say in the meeting, wow, that is really a very low level of salary. So we raised it a little high. No, they're not ever going to be millionaires, I can assure you. But the reality is we raised the salaries, and guess what? We have a budget deficit. And I think most of you can probably relate to that as a possible situation. So what we are doing is we are going to have a fundraising situation for the month of February. And it's called I Care, Therefore I Walk. It's a winter fundraiser to profile wonderful work and compassionate care provided by our spiritual care providers, and to assist with meeting the target budget goals to afford this program. Another goal is to expand our donor base, because really, truthfully, many people aren't even aware of this program. So we're hoping that we can do this for the budget of 2021-22. Okay, my personal challenge. This year, or in the past year, I have been fundraising a couple of times. Everybody just doesn't like to see me anymore. So one was for Toronto General Hospital, and there I raised about $6,500. And one was for the Saugeen Shores, for our own hospital here in Southampton, Port Elgin. And I raised over $6,500 for that as well. So what I'm hoping to do is to raise $20,000 by walking the 450 kilometers and back again between Southampton and Toronto. I've done this once before, so assure yourself, I really fully plan to do that again. I only put that in because it shows that I truthfully do believe in this program. But my more important situation is to install 2 caring benches, one in Port Elgin and one in Southampton. And that will happen in June of this year, or approximately. I've spoken to the town, and I think I probably went to the greatest authority at Foodland. And for anyone there who has shopped there, you know that Mary knows everyone and everything. And so I was planning to pay it forward, using Mary as my person. And she said to me, she said, you know what I see? I see that people are really lonely in Saugeen Shores. And I thought, wow. So off I went, and I thought, well, I'll mull that one over. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, when I have my eureka moments, I thought, okay, maybe we can have caring benches in both places. So that will happen. I'm hoping to partner with CFUW, but I know that I already have funds for one of the benches, and these will be placed by the town hall in Southampton and in Coulter Parkette in Port Elgin. And so that's what I'm hoping to do. My challenge to you: help me participate by joining me in raising funds. Just as patients and staff need spiritual care, I need your support to raise funds. I have donor sheets if you want to participate, and my email is there, or you can phone the spiritual care office, which also the phone number is there. Donate to my endeavors online, or give me your donation personally. Tax receipts will be issued because we do have a charitable number for everything over $20. Okay, a challenge to you. I love a challenge. Can the council match me in raising funds? Put together a team? Just a thought. February can be boring. Let's make it fun. If there are any questions, that's the end of my delegation.
And yeah, we'll ask if there's questions or comments. Pat, members of the committee.
I can't quite hear you, Mayor.
No. I've been having some audio trouble with you. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, now I'll hold my microphone up here. Anyway, are there questions or comments from members of the committee? No?
You know what? The other thing is, just in fairness to you, I do have hearing problems, but I've got my hearing aids in, so it's as good as it's going to get from here.
It's probably not you. It's probably me. I think I'm having some audio trouble tonight. Anyway, I'll if there's no questions or comments from members of the committee, I'll just say thank you. Oh, there are. Councillor Grace has a question. Councillor Grace.
Just a quick, it's not really a question. Just thanks, Pat, for this presentation, because I really didn't know much about it, and it's a wonderful program. And thank you so much for your support in bringing this fundraising opportunity to us. I don't know about forming a team, but certainly it's a great thing that I'll be donating to myself. So thanks for the information and your leadership.
Yeah, thanks, Cheryl. And I'll be out on the street corner by Tim Hortons. So if anybody wants to pass by and throw some money in the pot, I'll take it. Anyway, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Sure. Are there other questions or comments? Well, I just want to echo what Councillor Grace said. Thanks for all of your efforts. This is a really great program, the spiritual care program. Right? It's this work's really important. You say you mentioned today you maybe could have used some spiritual care going to the hospital. I think we could all use some spiritual care from time to time, and it's great there's folks like this out there who are doing that work. And I'm certainly keen to make a donation to your walk, Pat. I don't know if I can walk all the way from Owen Sound to Toronto, but I'll certainly be happy to support your walk, and I'm sure many others will too. So thanks very much.
Okay,
for your time.
Thanks, Mayor. And so just wave at me as I walk by. And
Okay.
if I could just say quickly, Mike Myatt, I watched your presentation on attainable housing today. It was excellent, and we definitely need it. So that's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pat. Okay, then we're moving on to our second delegation. How can everybody hear me? Can you guys hear me when I talk like this? Not all right. It's off and on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call in the delegation, and then I'm going to try to do something about this. So if I flash off and on, bear with me. So our second delegation is from John Mann, and he's here to talk to us about Cedar Crescent Village. If you can hear me, John, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Honor. Appreciate it. Every one of us in our spectacular town of Saugeen Shores should be happy and excited about the Cedar Crescent Village that's about to be built. Tonight, I think I just have, it's boiled down to this. I think a one-story restaurant and no more banquet hall. And I think we're there, frankly. And let me just indicate that the one-story restaurant is normal. I mean, most restaurants are one story, and we expect nothing more, certainly, to block a view in our wonderful beach. So what I'm proposing is one story, a whitefish grill, and have a wonderful patio on top. I think we're all excited about having something like that, but not two stories. Let me just point out what our Vice Deputy Mayor Mike Myatt said about the two stories. This is on January 10, the council meeting. I know this one hurts in our community, that the 30 feet, two-story, the blocking of, the view of the Lake Huron, absolutely. It's 30 feet high. There's two stories. And I know the people who oppose want the one-story building, but I'm hearing from these developers that are investing, what, 10 million, 12, 15 million dollars? I don't know what the dollar amount is. It's a lot of money. They're saying that a whitefish grill restaurant that needs to be connected to a rooftop patio to help pay the bills. That's no problem. Whitefish Grill wants a patio on top. That's a great idea. But right now, the design has the Whitefish Grill on top of the commercial retail one floor below it. Crazy. I mean, the retail stores are all one floor. You don't need to put the Whitefish Grill on top of the one floor of retail shopping. So you have to climb up one set, put it down on the beach, put the Whitefish Grill on the ground, and have a stairwell up to the patio, a wonderful patio where they can look out in nice weather. I think everybody would be happy with that. And certainly it's an easy concession. I don't know why there's this Whitefish Grill design on top of a retail one floor. Makes no sense. It's like putting Lord Elgin fish and chips on top of Ralph's. Crazy. So, I mean, that's an easy one. Let's get to the, and also Council John Davinsky indicated at the November 22nd meeting, the northeast corner where the commercial building will be is one story. That's correct. He was asking that on behalf of people. Well, he wants one story too. 2 stories obliterates double what the Giant Tiger Mall has. So let's get to the other problem, which is the banquet hall. The banquet hall was removed in the November 22nd council meeting. And I'm quoting from Deputy Mayor Don Matheson. I like the new setup. The people who have been asking for a smaller event hall to be removed, it's been removed. I think it's going to meet all the needs of what the people of Saugeen Shores want. And then Vice Deputy Mayor Mike Myatt said, but I did hear a lot about the banquet hall is not the right use for Port Elgin waterfront. I'm hearing that's out of the picture. It's been removed. So I just want to have that verified tonight. I guess I look at the banquet hall has been removed. It was one of the main bones of contention. So that, and John Davinsky later said, do we have a convention center? And our CAO said, we do not. So throughout this November 22nd meeting, clearly the banquet hall gone. But in the new design set on January 10th, just less than 2 months later, we have what is now called a marketplace, a market space that is equal to the banquet hall. What's going on? I mean, you wanted to remove it, and you approved removing it on November 22nd. Then on January 10, and I'm reading from my delegation, you can all look this up. The staff report said additional terms are proposed to be updated since the banquet hall is no longer proposed. In lieu of the original lease, there is a revised term to clarify the function of the market space and its association with the restaurant use. That's from the staff report. Well, the staff report highlights the market, and the market space is defined. Multi-purpose space, 50 nights per year, offered to all local not-for-profits for use within non-prime hours, Monday to Wednesday nights or daytimes. At the very same meeting, banquet/meeting space is identical to the market space. And that in the January 10 meeting was crossed out. Well, you can't, the design of the 2-story building, banquet hall, or whatever you want to call it, market space, is still on the beach, designed to go to continue. Well, you removed it on November 22nd, and it's still included, called market space now instead of banquet hall. And then the market is called an indoor venue designed to accommodate a farmer's market and with ability to transform into an exhibit or concert and dance hall and a gathering space. It is as big, and it's as big as the old banquet hall, but you removed it. So that's an easy one. You've already removed it, and that needs clarification. Deputy Mayor Don Matheson raised it at the January 10. He said, my one question is about the term banquet hall. So we're saying there is no banquet hall, correct, Jay? And Jay indicated, yes, the proponent is advised there is no banquet hall. He's not intending to market it as a space that's as a banquet hall. Okay, but they will be running the market space for weddings or other events, correct? Yeah. That's what the Saugeen Shore staff said. And Deputy Mayor Don Mann said, is that not a banquet hall? And the staff member said, I don't characterize it as that. Well, certainly it's a banquet hall. And you said you were going to remove it. So don't let them build the 2 stories. Done deal. And now all the divisiveness, which is totally unnecessary for 3 years now, is gone. 1 story, leave it on the ground, the Whitefish Grill, remove the 2-story monstrosity that is an eyesore by definition. Eyesore is ugly buildings defined in Google. And that's how you get rid of, that's how you resolve this crazy divisiveness in our wonderful town. We've got a spectacular town, and we should all be happy about having this Cedar Crescent Village. And as the proponent, Leslie, said, 13,714 of us should have a voice in it. Well, we don't want a banquet hall. We don't want a banquet hall. And Mike Myatt indicated that. Mike Myatt went on and on, said he's heard a lot from people, and he thinks everybody will be happy now without a banquet hall. Don Madison said the same thing. John Davinsky said so. And now we've got it, but it's called market space. Well, just because it's got a different name, we like it. But you can't put it in there because it's a 50-year lease. The day after they move in, they can amend the 50-year lease. It's easy. Amend it. But we can do banquets every day of the week, all year if we want. That is not an appropriate place. And finally, the people that live in these neighborhoods near the place, directly involved, the neighborhoods, the people that have lost property values with regard to this, well, they should have a say in this. And the flat 1-story Whitefish Grill, well, that's fabulous because there's no slanted roof that will knock out another visible view of the wonderful sunsets in our Legend Beach. I mean, let's use common sense, but I think you have to explain how January 10 fits now. I mean, after you removed it on November 22nd, you've included it again. How is that possible? And that's where trust is lost. But trust can be regained, and everybody can be happy if the 13,714 of us and the 2 surveys that didn't want a banquet hall are followed. And that's, I'm having one of my senior moments. I should get some credit, but 10 minutes goes like crazy. I don't write this stuff down, but I do have a lot of notes that I can't follow. But the people that are in those directly involved neighborhoods should have the most say in this thing. You should not be hurting anybody on this. And the property values and the quiet enjoyment of people on the listening to music and at all hours of the night. I mean, that's a problem. That's a problem for banquets and weddings and everything else. I don't care what you call it. We don't want it, and don't have it included, because if it's there empty, are you going to vote to put a vacant building in there that can house banquet halls whenever they want to get around to amending the lease? There's something wrong between November 22nd and January 10. I don't know what it is, but the counselors have to address that. And I think town halls are the way to do it. I think town halls should be something that monthly or as often as we need them, so that we can ask our counselors why they're doing things. We have to be included. Meaningfully included is a big deal. And the fact that we have a bylaw that allows for 30 feet walls on our beach doesn't mean we have to follow it. In fact, it says otherwise. Keep the eyesores down. Mother Nature has given us this beach with no cost involved, and she maintains it nicely. Once you build this thing, maintenance has to be continuous for 50 years, because Mother Nature will take it back. You can't interfere with it. Mother Nature will handle that. So I think we can resolve this. It's easy. 1 story for the restaurant. Get rid of the banquet hall. Everybody happy. Thank you so much. Take care.
Okay. Thank you. I apologize for shifting around during your presentation there. I'm trying to get my audio working. Can everybody hear me okay now?
I couldn't see anybody, so I couldn't see you shifting.
All right, good. Sorry about that anyway. I'm glad I've got a new computer going here, so I've got my audio working. Are there any questions or comments for Mr. Mann? Don't see any, so thank you very much, John, and have a good evening.
Hey, you take care, Mayor. Thanks.
All right, so we're moving on then to item 7, report of municipal officers and committees, and 7.2, general government. And we have a staff report on the 2022 municipal budget. And we'll turn it over to the treasurer for the report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Staff have incorporated the feedback gained from council during the November 30th and December 7th budget meetings and are returning with a final proposal for the 2022 town budget. Council gave direction to proceed with a 4.5% blended tax rate, and after receiving guidance on the final county and education rates just last week, staff have calculated the final municipal tax levy that is estimated to give that blended tax rate. This blended rate increase coincides very closely to the municipal rate increase of 4.49%. Budget summaries, reserve balance projections, estimated property tax tables, and a summary of all changes from the original draft budget have been included as schedules to the report. Once the final budget is approved, staff will return to council with a report to approve the 2022 tax bylaw. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. I'll read the recommendation, then we can take any questions or comments. It's recommended that council approve the municipal budget for the year 2022 as follows. Expenditures for operating $29,319,453, for capital $19,454,114, for total 2021 budget of expenditures of $48,773,567. Net reserve contributions from operating $6,917,018, capital negative $9,695,832, for a total 2021 net reserve contribution budget of negative $2,778,814. Revenues and other funding operating $18,699,508, capital $8,049,750, for a total 2021 budget in revenues and other funding of $26,749,258, and total municipal taxation for operating $17,536,963, for capital $1,708,532, for a total 2021 budget for total municipal taxation of $19,245,495. That the town of Saugeen Shores tax levy for 2022 be set to $19,245,495, and that the BIA levies for 2022 be set at $33,000 for the Port Elgin BIA and $29,350 for the Southampton BIA, and that council pass the tax levy bylaw establishing the 2022 tax rates at a future date. Questions or comments from members of the committee? Councilor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thanks, Dan. I just have a couple of questions on the Schedule A tax levy tally sheet. My first question is, why is there a 14.5% decrease in the wastewater revenue?
The wastewater revenue, as shown on the tally sheet, includes a transfer to reserve that's listed within a revenue line of approximately a net transfer of approximately 831,000. So without that net transfer to reserve taken away from the total revenues within wastewater, they are up 8%, which coincides with the fees and charges increase to wastewater.
Okay, and one other question, if I may. And similarly, an increase that kind of jumped out in garbage collection, a 486.3% increase in garbage collection.
Right, so within garbage collection, that increase is the increase in the net contribution from that program area. The waste collection, recycling, and landfill lines all work together. Those program areas are all combined to come up with a zero total between them after transfers to reserve are taken into account. But the increases to both the volume of bag tag sales and the price of bag tag sales, to the volume specifically, create that increased net revenue within garbage collection.
Thank you.
Okay, the Vice Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a comment and then a couple of questions. I think I'd like to direct the questions to our CIO if I might, but Daniel, I just wanted to thank you for the great job you did with this presentation. It's very easy to follow, and thanks for answering all the questions prior to today's meeting too. Appreciate it. And to our CIO, Kara, there are two questions on Schedule G. There's $10,000 for Culture and Heritage Master Plan, and which is a good thing. I just, if you could provide a little bit more information about what that's going to cover off the $10,000 in 2022.
Hi, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, and I'll have to look a little bit to the side because like you were having technical problems. I just lost my screen where the video plays. So sorry, the question was the $10,000 related to the Culture and Heritage Master Plan and how we were going to put that to work for us in 2022. So I believe the plan for that was to set the stage for the town's own RFP process related to the Culture and Heritage Master Plan. As we're aware, the county is just finishing up its work to develop its plan. And as an outcome of that, we would use that $10,000 to do some of the background research and the framing around the town advancing its own Cultural and Heritage Master Plan.
So Kara, the RFP, the preparation of the RFP will be done by year's end and in preparation for next year's budget discussions?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, thanks for that. And the other item was I saw in the budget 1.5 million for the pool, new pool rec center, which is great news that it's in there finally. But could you just explain, Kara, the timing around the 1.5 million and what exactly the 1.5 million is going to do for us for 2022 in terms of a pool rec center?
Yeah, thank you for the question. And through you, Mr. Mayor. So our goal is to have an aquatic center opening. We're aiming for summer of 2024. So when we do a work back schedule around that, we look at about 18 months worth of construction. It takes us back to March 2023. Approvals and permitting start in the winter of that year. And in the 6 months, April to July 2022, we'll be working on the RFP issued to qualified vendors. And so as of February, March this year, we're going to be looking at the pre-qualifications of contractors. So that I should have maybe done that in forward. So I'll just go through those again. So starting in March, we'll be pre-qualifying contractors. April this year, we will issue the RFP. That'll position us in August to January to work through the design and pre-construction for about 6 months. That'll put us in position in February 2023 to be applying for any approvals and permits that are required, which will start construction off in March 2023 in order to be open in August 2024.
Great. That explains it well, and it's good news. I know community members are wondering what's happened with the advancement of our pool rec center, and it's in motion. So I appreciate your explanation. Thanks, Kara.
You're welcome.
Very good, thank you. Further questions or comments? I don't see any. I do have just one question, Daniel, or well, I guess it's a question. I'll put it to you. I know I've heard a lot over the last, for quite a while, really, from members of the community concerned about how well the municipality is keeping up with our investments in our water and sewer infrastructure related to our growth. And I see in here, and it may be a question of, may raise some concerns from members of the public, and I think it merits a discussion or some comments from you. You note that our water reserve is drawn into deficit, nearly $2 million in deficit as of the end of 2022. And my understanding of that is it has to do with sort of the sequencing of our capital projects. And we've done some major capital projects, drawn that reserve into deficit, but that our water master plan gives us a clear plan for getting out of deficit and for fully funding the water treatment system going forward. But I wonder if you could just let us know if what I've said there is accurate, and if and give us any other thoughts you may have on how we're financing our water treatment system now and going forward.
Yeah, your statements are correct there. I have been in touch with our infrastructure and development department to touch on the reserve balances and the financial plans. We do have both water and wastewater financial plans that were last revised in November of 2020. They do show us going into negative balance through 2022, 23, 24, and returning to surplus in 2025. And those financial plans extend to 2027. They're ever-changing forecasts. And so as the timing of projects may change based on need, or the actual costs of projects may change based on need or based on actual costs, you're going to deviate a little bit from those financial plans, but it's something that staff are continually monitoring and ensuring that we're on a path back to balance. And certainly the infrastructure costs are a challenge for the municipality, as we spoke about during the budget meetings, both on the road side and for water and wastewater infrastructure, the water mains themselves. So we're going to have to continually focus on making sure that we're doing the right projects at the right time in order to have a sustainable system.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Daniel. I think it's just important to be clear that the current financial situation with the reserve is indicative of the fact that we have been making some large investments in the water treatment system. And the fact is that we are going to continue to make those investments in accordance with our financial plan, which means we're going to be in a deficit for a little while and back into balance. But it shouldn't be taken as an indication of the municipality's ability or willingness to invest in our water infrastructure. We're continuing to make capital improvements and have the sufficient financial capacity to do that. And I just wanted to make that clear. And I also wanted to make a comment to sort of follow up to the Vice Deputy Mayor's question about the pool. I think it's important to really highlight that one. That's exciting. And, we should really put that, that's one of the top line items in this budget, lining ourselves up to have a new pool up and running by fall of 2024. And it's also important to note that that timeline that the CAO went through there showed or mentioned a period where we'll be talking about design sort of later this year. And I know it's council's intention that the public will be involved in that discussion through some committee involvement and potentially other involvement. So I think the public can look forward to that. I know there'll be a lot of interest from members of the public in in the design and function of a new recreation and aquatic center. So other than that, I guess I will just conclude by, and we're going to get one more chance to talk about this, but this might be the most appropriate time to thank all of our departments for delivering the 2022 budget. I know I've heard from members of council, all members of council, I think will be unanimous in saying it was a really well-organized process that was easy to understand. I think council had a clear grasp on the decisions it was making, and I think we should all be proud of the decisions that we have made to advance lots of important stuff across the municipality, and it's due in large measure, as all of us on council know, to the hard work of our staff, our department heads, their managers, and everyone in there who works in all those departments for organizing it and understanding what we need to do and making sure it's presented to us. It makes it a heck of a lot easier for us to make decisions when you have very competent staff leading the way for us. So thanks very much, staff, for the budget, and thanks to council for all of your work as well. So with that, you've heard the recommendation, and I'll ask all in favor. That's carried. Okay. So we're on to 7.3 then, infrastructure and development, and there are 5 reports there. And the first one is a staff report on the transportation impact assessment, and the director.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Mayor, the traffic impact analysis is a recommendation that's coming from the Transportation Master Plan. It is a guideline that was put together by Paradigm Traffic Solutions, and it is one of the last ones to implement from that Transportation Master Plan. So staff are looking to council tonight to support that the approval of these guidelines. It will tell developers when they need to submit a traffic impact study and what that report should include.
Great, thank you. Then I do have a recommendation that council adopt the transportation impact assessment guideline. Are there questions or comments? Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one related to, there's a chart on page 5 that talks about horizon years. I didn't know that term before. I know it's explained in the report, but if somebody's reading that, I wonder, could you just explain what a horizon year is, please?
Sure, thank you. And through you, Mr. Mayor, the horizon year is the time it would take for growth to be included in the analysis. So we don't want to do today's state. We want to be able to have some years in the future for the developments to make sure that what we propose today is not going to be changed in a couple of years.
Thank you. So just a follow-up question on that, because part of the of this appendix C talks about the roundabout screening tool, and I've had a lot of questions, and I know other members of council have too, about the proposed roundabout study, feasibility study that's planned for the McNabb intersection, Highway 21 intersection. And I wonder if you could talk about the traffic warrant control analysis in terms of putting traffic signals there versus a roundabout, and how that relates to the horizon years. I mean, how far into the future are we going with those numbers to for the consultants to say that they think a roundabout would be more appropriate there than traffic signals?
Thank you. And through you, for McNabb and for concession 6, they were both looked at by the consultant, and those growth projections were to the year 2031. So that's the limit of the Transportation Master Plan, and that's why that year was selected. In roundabout designs, lots of times they will pick 20 years as a design horizon. For McNabb, we would continue with the traffic numbers for 2031 because our consultant is saying at that time a roundabout would be warranted. So we'll continue down that path. But ones in the future, if they're one-offs, then we would look at potentially the 20-year horizon.
Thanks.
Okay, are there further questions or comments? I don't see any. Thanks for this work, Amanda. I think it's really going to be helpful for any developer, anybody looking to do anything in our community, to have this laid out clearly as a bit of a roadmap for when we'll require a traffic impact analysis or assessment. And so I appreciate that work. And I also, reading through the document, was pleased with the flexibility provided in it. Particularly, you note it says in here that the TIA shall not be substituted for good transportation engineering judgment. And I think leaving room in these policies for good judgment is a good thing. Sometimes we can become hamstrung by the policies, and that leads to what on the ground looks like an irrational decision. So I think it's a well-balanced policy and well structured, and appreciate your work on it. So you've heard the recommendation, and I'll ask all in favor. That's carried. Okay, so we're on then to the next report, which is the staff report on the on-street parking policy, and the director.
Thank you. And through you, this is another recommendation from the Transportation Master Plan, but it didn't have a procedure or policy laid out. So engineering staff and public works staff sat together and looked at the designs that were recommended in the transportation master plan for the road elements. I also spoke with the police, so we would see what laws and Highway Traffic Act implications this policy would have. We've come together with where we would allow parking or where we would prohibit it based on asphalt widths and geometry of the roads. You will note that there is a dash on the cottage streets, and that's because we're going to wait to make recommendations after the cottage street study is done. That's being done in 2022. So for this year, we're not proposing any changes to the parking in those areas, but this policy would then be updated with recommendations coming from that report.
Okay, thank you. So there is a recommendation the council pass a bylaw to update the parking bylaw and the council approve the on-street parking review request policy. Are there questions or comments? I don't see any. Thank you very much. Oh, Councillor Davinsky.
Sorry. Through you, thank you, Ms. Mayor, through you to Amanda. Amanda, I didn't ask this question of you earlier today, but I just need clarification. Here it says, in the vicinity of elementary schools, prohibits stopping on the opposite side of the street, which makes sense, kids running across the street, and parking along the frontage. Does that mean that parents won't be allowed to park in front of schools to pick up their children?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's exactly what it means. When we have parents stopping in front of the schools, it creates quite a lot of congestion. We get a lot of complaints about that. So this year we've instigated no stopping in front of the elementary schools, so Northport, St. Joseph's, and Saugeen Central, to allow this movement. So it does mean that students have to walk a little farther from the front, but it makes it a much safer environment for all students. The one that would be different is that at Saugeen District Secondary School, they don't have the rules there because it's a 4-lane road with Gustavus and the crosswalk. But if there was a new school, then this would be incorporated into the parking plan of the streets in front of where that new school would be built.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, one other question. You say children will have to walk a little further. Where are we allowing the parents to park that the children have to walk a little further?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's only directly in front of the school, so the block in front of the school. So if you use Northport, for example, between Joseph and Mary Street, there's no stopping. And then in front of St. Joe's, you can't park between Johnson and Gustavus and stop there. Same with along Gustavus from Stafford to Cake, I believe, is a no parking, no stopping area.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there further questions or comments? I had a similar question to Councillor Davinsky. I'm just not sure how, I appreciate the reasoning for that statement and suggestion, but I've been in the school zones at 9 in the morning and 3:30 in the afternoon on school days, and as much as we would prefer people didn't, thousands of cars didn't show up and all park around the schools, they do, and they will, and they'll go somewhere, even if it's no parking, they will, I suspect. And I just don't know how. I think it has. We think we need a broader analysis of that particular issue. The biggest issue is the schools are in bad locations, surrounded by houses, and without adequate parking on site. And because they don't have enough parking on site, their parking spills out all over the streets, and it creates a dangerous situation. Everyone recognizes it. The director's quite right to identify it, and her heart is certainly in the right place to try to address it here. And it's also scientifically defensible. I'm just not sure it's practical to implement. So I see that it's it says that in considering requests for changes to parking and stopping provisions, the town should and consider these things and evaluate them on a case-by-case basis. This doesn't necessarily mean that we're taking these actions today. It means that they're actions that may come our way in the future. Am I interpreting that correctly, Amanda?
Through you, sure. Yeah, that's exactly what this means. This is one of the things that we want staff to consider when they're looking at a no parking request, and especially if it's in that school-owned zone. But like I said, when we updated the parking bylaw this year already, I think all of these locations for our existing schools have been adequately addressed.
Okay. Yeah, and if there's changes to come, they'll come to council, correct? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Thank you for that. And any other questions? It's a good report and thank you for it. You've heard the recommendation. All in favor? That's carried. That moves us on then to item 3, a staff report on sidewalk policies. The director.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. So sidewalk policies, there are 2 here. The sidewalk prioritization is one that helps guide our capital sidewalk program where we're going to put new sidewalks in, as well as when we're designing our roads for new developments or within reconstructions as to where we put sidewalk and if it's on one side or 2 sides. The second part of this report includes the winter maintenance policy when it comes to sidewalks, and that's one that we've been talking about for years, and we've been informally following, where we wait for a summation of 10 kilometers of a request within one of the 2 communities and can justify the addition of a snowplow driver. So this just formalizes that policy, puts it down in writing, and makes it clear and easily understandable for all residents and councillors.
Good. Thank you for that. There's a recommendation that council approve the sidewalk winter maintenance policy and sidewalk prioritization policy. Questions or comments? The Vice Deputy Mayor.
Yes, to you, Mr. Mayor. Amanda, I'm just wondering, Amanda, where we're at with the new 10 kilometers. I think that just happened in the last year or so, maybe a year or 2, where we purchased a new plow and a driver. And are we into the first, 2nd kilometer of the next 10K yet, or where are we at with the program?
I'm not sure where we are since the last edition for Port Elgin, but I can look that up and get that back to you. For Southampton, I do know that there's only 10 kilometers left of winter maintained sidewalk. So it would take requests from all streets to be able to come back with a report for Southampton. We did get this year a new DC, a development charges snowplow. So that's one that's looking at being directed to Port Elgin to enable more routes within the newly constructed subdivisions. But we would use the same prioritization to see where we could add to existing routes and do it efficiently.
Okay. If you could send that, Amanda, I'd just be interested in Port Elgin. Your answer to the Southampton question. I'd be interested to know where we're at with Port Elgin, and I guess Saugeen Township, right? Because a lot of subdivisions in Saugeen Township actually on the tablelands. So it'd be interesting to hear in those 2 reports if I could. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Are there further questions or comments? Okay. Yes, there's $175,000 in the budget we just passed for a new sidewalk snowplow machine that will be available to clear another 10 kilometers of sidewalk starting next winter. So that's good news. If there's nothing further, you've heard the recommendation, then all in favor. That's carried. All right, now we're on to item 4, the staff report on the development agreement with Chris Kovac and the director. Oh no, we'll go to the supervisor of development services.
Yes, thank you. So this agreement is for, and it's one that you've seen similar versions of over the years, but this is with the developer who is located between Spence and Morpeth. And for greater clarity, because I see now the map is not as, doesn't label the streets for whatever reason, between Breadalbane and Gray. So that block, there's an unopened lane. The property zone for residential construction. The agreement will outline the requirements to install roads, water, storm, sanitary services to the lands, and then would allow for construction of model home because earlier in the year, this property was approved for a severance, and infill like this will require this sort of construction over time. Anyways, there's the report.
Okay, thank you. So there is a recommendation that council pass a bylaw to enter into a development agreement with Chris Kovac. Are there questions or comments from members of the committee? The Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Thank you for the report, Jay. I know that the two residents who will be siding on Spence Street will probably not be happy with the road going right beside their house. But if we do put that back through, will it go all the way back to Morpeth Street, which will then allow all the people, mostly who are on Breadalbane, to sever their lots, because their lots are about 210, 250 feet deep, and they've always been looking for a way to sever those lots off?
Yeah, the current discussions with Mr. Kovac is that the road would only go partway through, but partly to manage costs, but also because there wasn't a lot of early interest in extending the road all the way through, though it's built and designed so that it could reach the entire length pretty straightforwardly, in my view.
What about winter maintenance on that section? Is that town responsibility, or because
Yes.
there'd be no turnaround?
Yeah, there's a small turnaround proposed, and yes, once it's constructed, it'll become a part of the town maintained infrastructure.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Mayat.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Jay, can you remind us what the housing development type is being proposed for these areas? My memory serves me, they're going to be some kind of townhouses or linked units, and is there a component of rental or, perhaps mildly attainable property?
Well, right now, yeah, if I can, sorry to interrupt. Right now, Mr. Kovac's proposing only a single detached dwelling for the property he owns, but the previous landowner had proposed a number of options. One of them was townhouses. That's not in front of council at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are there further questions or comments? I did receive one comment from a member of the public about the naming of the street. And I wonder, Jay, could you just run through for us and for the sake of the public, how street names like this are finally decided on by the municipality?
Well, I'm not sure there's a run through of it. It ultimately is council's decision as to what the name of the road should be. This proponent has suggested Mick Mobin. That's a mixture of his children's names. It's for the purposes of this agreement. That's really as far as it extends. So when it comes back to council, should he construct the road, there'll be an assumption bylaw that council will consider, and at that time, you have an option to pick a name. Now, what we do in other parts of the community, if I'm permitted to go in a little more detail, is that we look at ask proponents to provide a name. It's reviewed internally for 911 and emergency accessibility, so that there's not a similarity or with other street names. We look at perhaps the heritage of names in the community, because we maintain a list from Heritage Committee that we can suggest proponents use, and whatever's picked, it's brought forward. And in the case of a subdivision, it's shown on the M plan. In the case of this, it would be a discussion, probably a little more openly, because it's a discrete road segment, and we would have that conversation when it's time to assume the road.
Sure. Well, I would suggest, Jay, and I guess I appreciate the developer has created a name that's special to him, and I can understand why he might do that. I think perhaps you could, you say you have a list from the Heritage Committee. It might be a good idea to forward that on to the developer, because I think in the terms of naming streets that are going to be around for long beyond the time when any of us are here, it's good to maybe look for something that is special to the entire community. So put that to the developer and see if they bite, and we'll discuss it again when it comes back to council. So thank you for that.
Okay.
Anything else? Oh, Councilor Davinsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to Jay or to council. The way I look at it in this picture, the proposed roadway thoroughfare, though it's not a thoroughfare, roadway, is more than halfway through the block. Why wouldn't we insist that it go all the way?
Yeah, well, we've certainly engaged in discussions with this proponent about potentially building it all the way. How we ultimately decided is through a discussion with their engineer, and part of that discussion was the maintenance of the costs, because the proponent was only in the short term receiving benefit of only one lot. We wanted to be able to facilitate the infill development, so we were willing to consider a shorter road segment. But we still wanted to make sure that there was a future potential where they could extend it all the way. So if someone else they go to sever may need to extend that road all the way through.
Councilor Levinsky, yeah.
Yes, all right, I accept that answer. However, these roads that go just halfway, or as Don Matheson, the deputy mayor, said, what about winter clearing, that they can do a turnaround? Well, that's fine, but it is inconvenient. And I myself personally, I think the road should go through now while it would be built, and that might be cheaper. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I think I saw the deputy mayor put his hand up. The deputy mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jay, I mentioned this at the beginning, but have you done measurements for this roadway to go through to see how close it comes to the adjoining two properties? I remember when they were built, Saugeen Valley had huge issues because of the drainage in there, and one of the houses was held up for quite some time. That is an environmental area. So have we measured to see how close they will come to those two houses?
Yeah, we have. And that's, in fact, it's why we've required the developer to hire an engineer to do this work so that they can do it competently and ensure that matters related to drainage, matters related to access, maintenance, whatever can be, viewed objectively. And so what we have is a modified, our early designs are showing a modified road cross section of only 6.5 meters. And that takes it with, but it leaves room on the south side for the gas, drainage, and other infrastructure that we need. And I'm just trying to get the measurements here. Bear with me, Don. I should have had this, expecting you to answer. It's a little.
Won't that be on the east and west side, though?
On the east side, there's it's about 2 meters. I've just seen the measurement. On the west side, there's a few lots that actually we took widenings on in previous times. So it's a little wider, say in the south section than in the middle section. And it's about, oh gosh, I closed the wrong window there. It's about 2 meters at the narrowest on the west side and about 5 meters at the widest part on the west side rather.
Okay, like I said, I just worry about when those two houses are notified of the development, there will be some backlash because the road will be butting right up to the two houses. It's very tight there.
Understood.
Okay, further questions, comments? I don't see any. You heard the recommendation, so all in favor? And opposed? That's carried. Okay. We're on then to the fifth and final report in this department, and it's a staff report on the County of Bruce official plan amendment for agricultural policies and the supervisor development services.
Thank you again. So the report in front of you is for a request for comments from County Planning Department. They circulated a series of amendments. They've characterized it to me as their low-hanging fruit on agricultural policy. These are meant to be updated fairly quickly as the county progresses through the remainder of its official plan review and updates. So this report outlines those changes and the attachment rather, and we recommend and conclude that we should provide a comment in support of these changes to the county.
Okay, so it's recommended that council support the proposed amendments to the County of Bruce official plan. Are there questions or comments from members of the committee? Councillor Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And through you, having read through these proposals, I think this is a terrific step forward. I've spoken with a number of members, residents in the rural sections of our community, neighbors of mine, and this is a step in the right direction, allowing for lot developments in marginal land and sort of removing some of the barriers to severances of surplus lands and things. It really is going to make things a lot better for people who are in that business. And I support sending a recommendation that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there further questions or comments? I have a real problem with one of these recommendations. I think that this item on smaller specialized farm parcels, it's just, in my opinion, bad planning. This idea that we would sever a lot based on a business plan from the guy who owns it right now. And then in what happens in 15 years when it sells and the business plan changes, do we take the severance back? Right? It doesn't make sense. You don't, planning is forever. You sever a lot, it never goes back. You don't make the decision based on what's going on right now. You make the decision what's the best use in the best interest of the community going forward for the rest of time until there's another decision made. But I mean, you're never going to merge it back with the lot next door, right? That's an unlikely scenario. So we're going to break these farm lots up into little tiny fragments because somebody in the year 2022 has a business plan that allows it. And then when agriculture changes and the business model changes and they need bigger farms, they're out of luck. You know, and little tiny farms may make sense under certain business models, but speaking from some experience, not very many, not ones that work in real life. So I don't support the change. It's unfortunate. Making this argument in front of you folks is not really fair. I'm going to make the same argument when it comes to Bruce County, and I'm probably not going to vote for it there either. But those are my views on it. So I don't support the recommendation. Are there further questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? And opposed? That's carried. Okay. That moves us then on to 7.7, communications petitions for information. 5 items there. Are there any questions or comments on any of them? Councillor Davinsky.
Once again, Mr. Mayor, thank you. If we could pull accessibility committee minutes, and I will declare conflict there as my wife, Reverend Ann Vavra Davinsky, is the vice chair of the accessibility committee.
Okay, your interest is noted. There's no vote involved. So any other discussion on any of these items? I don't see any. So we'll go on then to, Councillor Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the late recognition there. I stuck my hand up late. Just a comment on the multi-municipal wind turbine working group. It was an interesting read through that, and I encourage people who have an interest or who have been following the wind development. And of course, wind turbines are an increasing component of our electricity mix in Ontario, which is the lowest carbon energy electricity jurisdiction in all of Canada, certainly if not all of North America, and maybe even the world. And wind turbines play an important role in that. But this also highlights that the wind turbines are not the sole answer to these problems, and that wind turbines do fail, and sometimes catastrophically speaking, and that needs to be kept in mind as we consider perhaps further wind turbine developments either within or without our communities. So thanks for that.
Sure, thank you. If there's nothing else on the communications, then we will go on to reports of municipal councillors and policy, and you have my report there. I did just want to draw attention to the certificates of recognition for the Port Elgin Missionary Church, the Nuclear Innovation Institute, and Kristen's Pharmacy. As the vaccination clinic at the Missionary Church wrapped up, I thought it was important on behalf of the municipality to forward thanks to all of those organizations who've hosted vaccination clinics and mass vaccination efforts in the last 2 years. I know you'll all share my thanks to them for having made their facilities available. So did want to make sure that those 3 organizations got recognition. And then we're on to reports of department heads, and 3 reports there. And the first one is an information report on the year-end Building Department Report 2021 and the Director of Infrastructure and Development.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. This is a good news story. It's showing how much growth there is happening in our town. You'll see that there's over 200 residential building permits this year compared to 125 last year. So we are busy. We do know that from just housing, it affects all of our departments throughout the whole town, right? We've got a bigger tax base now, and we've got more citizens to serve. So we use these reports moving forward to help guide and check in on our growth projections and see how we're doing. But it's a good time to be in Saugeen Shores for sure.
As always, are there questions or comments from members of the committee? Councillor Davinsky.
Thank you, sir. Again, I brought this up last week or a couple of weeks ago, and they said, well, it's coming to this meeting, and here it is. I hope that this particular story will be put out by the communications department, because it's a huge positive story, and it makes people feel good about living in Saugeen Shores, knowing that there's that much activity going on. I checked with other municipalities. They aren't even close when it comes to building stats to Saugeen Shores. Thank you, sir.
Watch your inbox tonight. Are there further questions or comments from members of the committee? I don't see any. I want to say thanks to the chief building official for putting this report together, and I think it's indicative of the amount of work that department is doing, that our building department is doing. It's as busy as they've ever been. It's not like when you do 526 building permits, we add a bunch of staff to keep up with that. The staff that we have in the department handles that workload at whatever it is, and when it comes at them like a fire hose, they deal with it one permit at a time and do a great job of it. So I want to recognize them for their work, and certainly, our growth is an opportunity for us to leverage that growth to do good things for the people of our community, and I know this council is committed to that, and so we're growing quickly, and that's the work ahead of us. But thanks very much for the report, Amanda. All right, we're on then to our information report on Hydro One's community investment application submission, the CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is just a quick update report on behalf of the Lamont Sports Park Fundraising Committee that they will be applying for a $25,000 funding opportunity through Hydro One's community investment program. The deadline for application is January 30th, and so it's just for council's awareness tonight. Thank you very much.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions or comments to that one? Don't see any, so that moves us then on to the third and final item, an information report on service line warranties, the Director of Infrastructure and Development.
Thank you. And through you, we've heard from different councillors and from residents about the mailings that have gone out for the service line warranty. So we wanted to bring this to everybody's attention as to where we're at. So since this report was issued, Service Line Warranties has let me know that there are now 85 customers. So it's a fair balance on calls that we're getting into the town as well as people signing up. So what we're doing going forward is we're going to stop doing the paper mailouts, which is the bulk of the complaints and the confusion, and then go with a more digital presence and increase the communications that way through the partnership with Service Lines Warranties. The agreement we have with them automatically renews every year since we signed it in 2015. So if council wishes to change that or look for more information, we can do that as those renewals happen.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions or comments from members of the committee about that? Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did speak with Amanda about this earlier today, or at least communicated with her about it. But I just wanted to make sure that going forward, that the information about the asking residents to check their homeowner's insurance policy to see what their coverage is for this is prominently displayed. The example we had from the North Dundas website, you would only see that information, I think, if you went into one of the drop-down questions. So I would like that to be just a piece of information that's out there, maybe in our introductory statement, just to tell folks, check that out first and compare it and see if you need this.
Okay. All right, thanks for that. Are there further questions or comments? I don't see any. This was, an important discussion back in 2015 when we had it. We were having a lot of folks when we were doing work on infrastructure, who did not realize that they had responsibility for the infrastructure between the municipal infrastructure and their home, and found that they were unable, for one reason or another, to cover costs for repair of damaged infrastructure that they themselves owned. And so through local area services, which is part of the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, this program is available, and the town of Saugeen Shores signed up with it in order to make sure there was an option for our residents to ensure they had coverage to protect themselves in the event that infrastructure that they own themselves was damaged in some way. So it's an important thing to protect the homeowner, to protect the property taxpayer and the municipality. And I'm glad to hear from the director that there's going to be some changes to the way it's communicated, because I don't think people need to feel threatened by it. And I certainly want people to understand it when they hear about it, that it's always their choice as to whether or not they purchase insurance coverage. But it is an important program, and one that I think is important for the municipality to provide. So thanks for the report on it. That brings us to the end of our agenda, and so we'll start with announcements by members and the deputy mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And as the snow begins to pile up, just a reminder to all homeowners that if you happen to have a fire hydrant located on your property, please make sure that it's cleaned and cleared out so that if something happens on your street and the fire department needs to get to it, they have clean and free access. Thank you.
Very good. The vice deputy mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to take a minute, if I could, to thank the Illuminating Dreams fundraising campaign team. Robert Stanley is the co-chair of that committee, and Councillor Davinsky's on the committee, and 8 others, and they're working really hard. They've been meeting the last 3 months. They're setting a path forward to raise $1 million in an effort to try and move forward with building 2 more youth baseball diamonds in this community. And so they are working hard. They've made a few presentations in what they call the Quiet Ask, and hopefully this Thursday night there's a committee meeting, and they're going to be talking about an official campaign launch sometime in June. That date's not been set yet. The committee hasn't finalized that yet, but they will be talking about it Thursday night. And this is what we're calling the Quiet Ask. And if members of the community want to be part of having their name at the park and one of our ball diamonds as a sponsor, or a few of our other amenities, reach out to myself or to Robert Stanley, John Davinsky, and we'd be glad to talk to you and make a presentation. So again, this isn't the public campaign hasn't been launched yet, but we are working really hard behind the scenes on what we call the Quiet Ask, and our goal is to reach $1 million by this fall. So we're optimistic, and we invite people to contact us. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Smith.
Thank you. And earlier this evening, you recognized a number of businesses and organizations associated with the vaccination clinics locally. And I just wanted to thank Bruce Power for their efforts as well in supporting those vaccination clinics. And equally as important, we've had a number of volunteers throughout the community who've helped to support those clinics as well. And without them, they would not have been such a success.
Agreed. Thank you, Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to thank everyone who tuned in to our environmental stewardship committee carbon calculator event that was held last Wednesday evening. We had 155 people who signed on and got a lot of good feedback. I also want to thank Project Neutral for the use of their carbon calculator, the Nuclear Innovation Institute, our own supporting staff, and our panelists who participated in the discussion. And for those of you who haven't seen this but would like to, staff will be posting a recording of this on our on the town's website in a few days. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Dubinsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of items. The Blue Water Area Solid Waste Recycling, Basra. The budget is done for 2022. And as far as the cost per member household for Blue Box Recycling, it's going up 1.9% to $32.61. That's an FYI. Another one, Southampton BIA AGM is set for Tuesday, March 8th, 7 p.m. It will be a virtual meeting. New budget will be presented, along with hopefully the results of the streetscape study. Just a reminder, Saugeen Shores Winterhawks hockey is back Friday, February 4th at the Plex, 8:30, as the Hawks host Tavistock Royals in a best-of-7 championship quarterfinal playoff series. And finally, congratulations to Adam Coggy of Port Elgin, who was the winner of $10,000 on a recent edition of Wall of Chefs on the Food Network. We just happened to tune in, and there he was. He eliminated 3 others for the win. Congratulations, Adam Coggy. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks very much, John. When you talk about the Winterhawks game, I close my eyes. I feel like I'm at the game. Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nothing for me tonight.
Okay, Councillor Mayette. Hope you're on mute there, Dave.
Sorry, nothing for me either tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I do have one thing. Is the Director of Infrastructure and Development still with us? Are you there, Amanda?
I am.
Thank you. I wanted to remind everybody that this evening, I believe, is Amanda's last meeting with us as the Director of Infrastructure and Development. And on behalf of council and on behalf of the community, I want to say a big thank you to you for your service to our community. You've done tremendous work. You cleared off your desk tonight with a bunch of it, and that's only just scratching the surface of all the things that you've done and accomplished in your time as director with our organization. And the town just wants to wish you all the very best in your upcoming role with the County of Bruce. And we're going to we're lucky because we're going to get to continue to collaborate with you at that level as well. So thanks very much.
Thank you guys very much. I have enjoyed working with each of you as well, and definitely you are lucky because of the staff that you have from the front lines up to the managers, and here you're very lucky and well supported by them, and you guys are going to do great. Thanks.
Thanks very much. Okay, and with that, we'll look for a motion to adjourn. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Carr. All in favor? The committee stands adjourned, and we will reconvene at 10 after 8.
Okay, we reached 8:10. If we can get all members to turn on their cameras. Mr. Mayor, we have all members present. You may begin.
All right, thank you, Linda. Then we'll call to order this regular council meeting. And the second item on the agenda is disclosures of pecuniary interest. Ask any member if you have one of those you wish to declare at this time. Seeing none, you can do that anytime if you need to. We do have one addition to the agenda, and there's a resolution that the agenda be amended to add item 7.1, a report regarding a council vacancy and the Director, Community Services and Operations. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Carr. Any questions or comments? All in favor? That's carried. All right, that moves us then on to, we have no public meetings, so we're on to item 5, adoption of minutes, and I have a resolution. The council adopt the minutes of the council meetings of January 10, 2022, and note and file the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting of January 10, 2022 as presented. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Mattson, seconded by Mayette. Any questions or comments to those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. All right, then we're on to item 6, report of the Committee of the Whole, and there is a resolution. This is a general government report on the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative membership. The resolution is that council directs staff to renew the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative membership for 2022. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Dubinsky, seconded by Carr. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. All right, now we're on to item 7. Before I read the resolution, I'll turn it over to the CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, everyone. Tonight, I'm really pleased to announce that Kristen Schreider has accepted the position of Director, Community Services and Operations with the town of Saugeen Shores. Kristen's start date will be February 14th this year. The position of Director, Community Services and Operations was approved through the Municipal Service Delivery Review that was approved by Council on November 8th, 2021. This position is a reprofiled position that brings together the community services, public works, and operations portions of the towns. The director will lead all activities associated with water, wastewater, landfill, cemeteries, infrastructure maintenance, recreation facilities and programming, parks, trails, seasonal campgrounds, aquatics, beaches, waterfront, and harbor. Gives you just a sense of the responsibilities there and the breadth of the things that the town is involved in. Just a bit of an overview of the recruitment process that the town went through. So after the approval for this position in November, the town had a very competitive process where it received over 31 applications to the position. Preliminary interviews were held in early January, and second interviews were conducted with the top candidates. In addition, candidates had to prepare written submissions, provide a presentation, participate in behavioral assessments, and receive favorable references. Kristen came out at the top of that extensive process as our top candidate and has now accepted the offer to take this position. As some of you might know, Kristen previously worked for the town of Saugeen Shores from 2001 to 2015, where she advanced through progressive roles. In 2015, Kristen accepted the position of Senior Manager of Property, Parks, and Open Spaces with the City of Owen Sound, and most recently, she held the role of Senior Manager of Corporate and Facility Services. Kristen has a breadth of knowledge that will be a great asset to the town of Saugeen Shores. She will be joining the town at a pivotal moment for the organization, supporting this realigned Community Services and Operation Department. Her local knowledge, experience, and passion will be a great addition to the town as it moves forward with its future-ready vision, supporting the community of Saugeen Shores through a committed, focused, and empowered team. Many of you know Kristen for her work as the Ward Councillor of Port Elgin. In this role, Kristen continually highlighted her passion for community and at the same time illustrated her valuable knowledge and expertise in delivering excellence of service. Kristen has resigned her position as Port Elgin Ward Councillor effective January 21st. Council is required to declare the office vacant at its next meeting, and the resolution in front of you tonight outlines that process. A report will be provided by the clerk at the February 14th meeting requesting Council's direction on the process to fill the vacancy. Before I turn it back to you, Mr. Mayor, let me conclude by just saying how thrilled I am to have Kristen joining our senior leadership team here at Saugeen Shores. Careful consideration was given to finding the right fit for this new role, and I couldn't think of a better individual to lead the new Community Services and Operations Department. With that, Mr. Mayor, I will turn it back to you and note that Ms. Schreider is on the call tonight and wishes to speak to Council and the public related to her resignation and acceptance of this position. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kara. I'm pleased to recognize the incoming Director of Community Services and Operations and the outgoing Ward Councillor with the town of Port Elgin. I guess I'll call you Councillor Schreider one last time. Councillor Schreider.
Thank you very much, and great to see you guys. Kara, thank you very much for that introduction and background. I've just prepared a few things, so if you can just give me about 2 minutes. The last few days have been a whirlwind of emotions, and actually the last few months since taking the leave from council has been a struggle. Taking the leave during this time was the right thing to do, but it was hard personally to not meet the commitments of the councillor job. It was hard, but it was the right decision. I want to recognize and thank each of you for stepping up and helping me through that process. I want to thank the residents of Saugeen Shores. We are so fortunate to call Saugeen Shores our home, and collectively we work together to continue to build and shape the community that we are so proud of. I found that this community, whether you're on one side of a situation or a decision, or on the other side of that situation or decision, all of us want the same. We want what's best for this community. What we have to respect is that everybody's best looks a little bit different. So thank you to all of the residents of this community. To the staff of Saugeen Shores, it's been a pleasure to work with you as a counselor. I look forward to rejoining the administration after 6 years. I'm so excited to return back home where I belong. Leaving Saugeen Shores just over 6 years ago was one of the hardest decisions I've made. I knew that I needed experience elsewhere in order to be prepared and equipped to be a future leader in Saugeen Shores. And here we are. What can I say about my teammates around this table? My fellow counselors. What a ride, what an amazing experience. The dedication, composure, balance, and passion that you all demonstrated have been amazing to be part of. For those of you that have one term under your belts or more than one term under your belts, you welcomed a group of newbies, including myself, into the horseshoe with open arms and an open mind. You have always been there for us when we've needed guidance, advice, or just needed to talk. I appreciate knowing that you are available to all of us and me when needed. To my fellow newbies, didn't we shake things up a little bit? I'm very proud to have served with you, and I think that we held our own. I liked our dynamics and the flavor that we added around the table. I respect you and appreciate the value that each of you have brought to the counselor position. Luke, Donnie, Mike, Jamie, John Davinsky, and John Rich, Cheryl, Maddie, and Dave. I know that you have each been a sounding board for me at one point or another over the last 3 years. I've enjoyed my time as a counselor, and working with you people has made it a wonderful experience. Being a counselor is not an easy job and often thankless, but you each set an example of finding your motivation, serving the community in its best interest, not just one group, and you find the rewards. It is a very rewarding job when you know that you make a difference. So thanks to each of you for what you do for our community and making that difference. I appreciate council giving me an opportunity to speak tonight, and I'm truly grateful for this experience and relationships that we have developed along the way. I look forward to working with you as the Director of Community Services and Operations. Lastly, I just want to thank my family who supported me through my career, my council career, and the transition of working in Owen Sound for the last 6 years. It will come as no surprise to anyone how loved and spoiled I am by my family. Each day I would come home to a very happy chocolate lab that has been walked, a fire stove that's topped up with wood, and a home cooked meal on my counter. So thank you very much to my mom, my dad, Carrie, John, Charlie, and Seth. And I genuinely want to say thank you and to you guys. And I am very, very much looking forward to working with Kara and the rest of the team at Saugeen Shores. This is a very exciting time. So thank you.
Thank you, Kristen, and congratulations. And I guess I'll ask, so there is a resolution here, but I'll just ask if any members have any comments they'd like to make before I read the resolution, the Vice Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to welcome you back. Kristen, I had the opportunity to work with you for 10 years, of course, in community services. And, you know, one thing I found out about you, and I think our mayor said it, or Kara said it, is passion for our community. And you're coming home and from Owen Sound, well, you did a great job over there too. I know you did, because I know a fair number of people in Owen Sound that spoke very, very highly of you. We're very fortunate to have you back here in the director role. And I know this decision is a tremendous decision, and decision that we will look back on and say that was a great decision this community made. So welcome back, and can't wait to work with you again. And this time as the Director of Community Service and Operations. So congratulations.
Thank you. Any other comments from members? I guess, Councillor Smith.
Sorry, and through you, Mr. Mayor. So this is a brief window, Shrides, where I get to refer to you as Shrides and not Councillor and not Director. So I'd be remiss if I didn't take advantage of that. Shrides, you and I were teammates on the field, on the court, and in council chambers. I have been delighted to run a campaign against you, and we never saw it as that. It was certainly something that we saw and looked forward to working together on this, and now we get to work together in a new way. So I'm so looking forward to watching your career grow from knowing you in your time managing our arenas to seeing what you'll do managing more than that. So congratulations and wishing you all the best.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Jane.
Any other comments or questions? Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Kristen, so happy to have you back in this way. I'm sorry to lose you as a colleague on council, but it's a daunting job when Kara read the description to us. But I am totally confident that you will hit it out of the park. And thanks very much for applying for it. I'm excited.
Thank you. Any other comments from members? I guess just a brief comment. I was around in 2015 on the day that you left, and that was a tough day. That was a sad day to see you go. So I'm super pleased to still be around to see you come full circle and come back to be a staff member with the town of Saugeen Shores. You were one of our best back then, and you're going to be one of our best again now. So welcome home, and we're very glad to have you back. And now gird yourself, because now from now on, when you come before us, we're going to be asking you tough questions rather than saying nice things. So get prepared for that. Anyway.
Perfect. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate that.
Thanks very much. So I do have a resolution, and it is that whereas Councillor Kristen Schreider has resigned the office of Port Elgin Ward Councillor effective January 21, 2022, and whereas in accordance with Section 2621 of the Municipal Act, when an office of a member of council becomes vacant, council shall at its next meeting declare the office vacant. Now therefore be it resolved that an office of Port Elgin Ward Councillor is hereby declared vacant. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Smith, seconded by Matheson. Any questions or comments to that resolution? Maybe is the clerk available? Lindsay, could you just, so we're about to declare councillor's seat vacant. Could you just give us we've done this just recently, so the public might be familiar with the process, but could you just give us the broad strokes of how council will go about or how council will go about making decisions about what to do about that vacancy going forward?
Yes, thank you. I'm certainly looking for feedback from council. We can do it at the next meeting, but it will be by appointment. How you wish to get your list of candidates, I'll be looking for direction from council on that.
Okay, so more to come in the coming meetings on that. If there's no further questions or comments, then we'll ask all in favor. That is carried. Okay, thank you all for that. Now we're on to bylaws. Sorry, I gotta find my place here. There are 3 bylaws there for consideration this evening. Does anyone wish to consider any one of them individually? Seeing not, then we'll read the resolution that the following bylaws are hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 24th day of January 2021. 1/6/2022 being a bylaw to authorize a memorandum of understanding with the Corporation of the County of Bruce for the provision of emergency social services. 2/7/2022 being a bylaw to authorize the entering into of an agreement with the Corporation of the County of Bruce for 911 services. And 3/8/2022 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meetings of the Corporation of the Town of Saugeen Shores. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Grace, seconded by Smith. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. And finally, I have a resolution that this regular council meeting of January 24, 2022 hereby adjourns at 8:25 p.m. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Matheson, seconded by Mayette. All in favor?